have changed, not changing. The game has changed. And it changed not because it was asked, can we change it? It was boldly changed based on a lot of influence, a lot of financial inhibitions that's going to be injected into.
Not only was Virgil Ortiz's win over Bohachik not easy, but it caught the attention of Turki Alalshikh.
Next, we want Crawford.
As the person who is changing boxing, Turkey has been able to see a lot of big fights coming up, such as Ortiz versus Crawford. But not everyone is happy. When Turkey makes changes, people feel left out. Bernard Hopkins in particular feels effed out and has publicly blamed Turkey for his leaving Golden Boy marketing.
Understand that they are not the decision makers exclusively.
Hopkins, known for his non-nonsense attitude and deep understanding of the sport, recently opened up about his concerns with how Turkey is handling things. He is just trying to make fights happen without fully getting what it takes to build these matchups. Hopkins told me, I like the man. He has accomplished a lot, but you can't just put fighters in the ring because it sounds good on paper. Boxing is more than just putting on a show. It's about timing, skill development, and knowing the careers of these fighters.
Itself. So what that means, what they got to do with Bernard this weekend, what they had to do with last weekend. You see that name, Real Season? Yeah. Golden Promotion.
One of the key issues Hopkins brought was Turkey's push for a fight between Terence Crawford and Virgil Ortiz, while Ortiz's recent win against Buck showcased his potential. Hopkins thinks Ortiz is not yet ready for a fight with Crawford, who is arguably at the peak of his career. Virgil is talented, no question about it, Hopkins continued, but he's still got a lot of work to do before he steps in with someone like Crawford. Crawford is a seasoned veteran, and putting Virgil in there too soon could derail his career.
That's a major. Virgil, one of the best fighters in the world, 19-0, 19 knockouts. I know you're a big believer in him.
I would say that he's the best welterweight in the world by far, because every other welterweight is just running. Every other welterweight doesn't.
For Hopkins, the fight that makes the most sense for Crawford isn't Ortiz. It's Jim and Boots. Anis has been climbing the ranks and earning a reputation as one of the most dangerous fighters in the class. Hopkins thinks that a Crawford versus Boots fight would not only be a more competitive matchup, but also a fight that fans have been eagerly waiting for.
It's a tough fight.
I think you said what is next. I want to answer that. I think the best fights out there for Virgil is
Crawford facing Boots is the fight everyone wants to see. Hopkins said Boots has been showing himself and he's ready for that step up. This is a fight that's been building for a long time, and it's one that would bring out the best in both fighters. It's what the people deserve, and it's what should happen next.
the Boots. Anybody, Philly guy, non-Philly guys, no.
Speaking about Boots, a lot of people
he's a problem. He's a problem, yeah.
Hopkins also pointed out that Crawford versus Boots would be a bigger fight than a matchup with Ortiz, as Anis has been slowly working his way up the rankings and has shown that he's ready for a challenge of this magnitude. This fight has been building for a while, and the time is perfect. Crawford facing Boots is the real super fight.
I believe the negotiations will start right away, as soon as Monday.
However, Hopkins's frustration goes beyond just the matchups being made. It extends to the way choices are being handled within the sport. As a former Golden Boy fighter and someone who has been deeply involved in the boxing business, Hopkins feels that important choices should be made by those who have a long history in the sport, not by newcomers who might not fully understand its intricacies.
He is two-faced. He's a liar. Total phony. Whatever my personal things are with De La Hoya was a bad boy. With his
Ortiz's ideas should be discussed by the team, which is me. Oscar and his teachers are coaches, not Oscar and Turkey, Hopkins said, clearly expressing his dissatisfaction with the current state of things. Saudi Arabia might have the money and the power, but he doesn't have the deep understanding of what it takes to guide a fighter's career. This is why I've been feeling more and more like it's time for me to step away from the sport. I've given everything to boxing, and as much as I love it, I'm getting older, and I don't want to see it go in the wrong way.
So, we want to get him to that world title right away. I believe that none are available just yet, but we want to go after Zoo. We want to go after Crawford. We want to go.
Hopkins' words make sense. further fueling the growing concern among many in the boxing community that the sport is being driven more by business interests and by the love and care for the fighters themselves. For Hopkins, this is one of the reasons why he's considering taking a step back from the sport. Boxing has always been my life, but with the way things are going, I feel like it might be time for me to take a break. He said age is coming up to me, and I want to lead the sport on my terms, not because it's being taken over by people who don't truly understand it.
The aging promoters and the ones that understand that life comes and goes, that their time is soon to come. Just like a fighter has a timetable to shine, and then the sun goes down. Well, that is directed to everyone that's living and breathing.
Despite the criticism, Turki Alalshikh stays focused on his mission to bring about a new era in boxing. In answer to Hopkins' comments, Turki kept his words brief but well firm. "I'm just trying to do what's best for fighting. I am not trying to make anyone feel left out. However, that's not really the point here." Turki and De La Hoya are already in talks with Ortiz and Crawford, but just like Bernard said, it's not just up to the both of them to discuss this.
We want to make big fights. Crawford, if Virgil wins, we name Crawford next. Yes.
Even coaches, including Robert Garcia himself, are against this idea. Trainer Derek Bozienis has made his opinion clear. Virgil Ortiz Jr. isn't ready to fight Terence Crawford after watching Ortiz's latest performance against Sergey Bohachik. Bozie concerns come from Virgil's penchant to load up on his punches, constantly seeking knockouts, and his emotional reactions when hit.
But I'm looking at it though, the way he fought, and then I looked at Virgil. Virgil can take a shot too though, so it might go to distance.
These problems make Bozie seriously doubts whether Virgil is prepared to face someone as skilled as Crawford. To fight against Bohachik, which was Ortiz's first meeting with a level fighter, showed his vulnerabilities. Even though he won, Ortiz took good punishment, taking heavy shots and suffering to knockdowns. This has left many questioning if he's truly ready for a fighter like Crawford.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't nothing, you know what I mean, devastating. Now, Ortiz, you can see he was sitting down with them shots, but he was missing a lot of shots too though. You know what I mean? So that could have took effect too on him. You know what I mean? He was missing a lot.
Bozie isn't alone in his worries. Ryan Garcia, who defeated Ortiz in the amateurs, also noticed Virgil's habit of loading up on his shots and his eagerness to retaliate directly after being hit. This kind of predictable aggression might work against lesser opponents, but against some, like Crawford, it could lead to a disastrous result.
You know, Crawford versus Virgil Ortiz.
Right.
You know, that's the fight that they wanted to make for February.
Right.
You saw Crawford's last fight against Madrimov.
Right.
You saw Virgil against Boyachuk.
Right.
How you think that fight goes?
Styles make fights though, man.
According to Bozie, I don't think Virgil is ready for Crawford right now. The reason I'm saying this is because of the showing he just did against Sergey Bohachik. You can't be fighting Crawford like that, he added. Crawford can hit also. I think it'll be a good fight from the beginning, but I think Crawford wins the fight.
How you think that fight goes?
Styles make fights though, man. I don't think Virgil ready for Crawford right now. I really don't think he's ready for Crawford. The reason why I'm saying that, the performance he just did, you can't be fighting Crawford.
Ortiz's style is straightforward and predictable. He's a slugger who relies heavily on his power, but Crawford shines against fighters like that who don't bring anything unexpected to the table. Bozie analysis further shows why Bernard Hopkins and others might be hesitant to push Ortiz into a fight against Crawford at this stage. They realize that Ortiz is still in the development phase and rushing him into a match with Crawford could be detrimental to his career.
You know what I mean? And Crawford can punch also, you know what I mean? So I think it'd be a good fight, you know, from the beginning, but I think Crawford wins that fight.
Despite the worries, Virgil Ortiz Jr. is eager to face Crawford, and it seems His Excellency Turki Alalshikh is also interested in making the fight happen. Ortiz has made it clear that he wants to take on Crawford, even rejecting the idea of giving Bohachik a rematch to clear up any controversy from their fight.
I mean, we're going to go back to the hotel and celebrate because in our hearts, and Sergey knows that he's a champion. He would be here right now. He didn't want to go to the hospital. The commission.
However, it's becoming increasingly clear that the team behind Ortiz is not fully on board with the idea of him facing Crawford next. They, like Bozie and Bernard, see the risks and understand the potential consequences of rushing into such a high-stakes fight.
It depends on how far it goes. Yeah, well, yeah. I think Crawford can stop him. Yeah, I think he can stop him.
Yet there's another powerful force at play: money. As Bozy pointed out, if the reason for Ortiz is financial, then taking the fight against Crawford makes sense. If this is about money for Virgil, it's good for him because he'll make millions in a losing battle against Crawford, Bozy said.
5 fighters that you would like to fight coming up.
So we got Timzu, we got Crawford, Spence, or I guess you can say the winner of Spence or Fundora.
That if he's going to lose to someone, he might as well get paid the most amount of money, and that would be against Crawford unless he wants to move up to 168 to go after Canelo. At some point, the idea of a massive payday might outweigh the worries about the risks, especially if Ortiz's team feels pressured to secure a lucrative fight.
Not exactly sure from what I saw on Saturday night if Virgil Ortiz is ready for the top elite, which is Terrence Crawford at 154.
And Ortiz has been inactive. Like he had 2 rounds in like 2.5 years. Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I think there's other work for him to do than to go right for the top dog in the.
The performance Ortiz showed against Serhii Bohachuk raised significant red flags. He absorbed a lot of punishment, was dropped twice, and eventually looked like the loser despite being declared the winner. Bohachuk, to me, he's not a puncher. He was just hitting you with an accumulation of hits. It wasn't anything devastating. Bozy noted that the fact that Bohachuk, who isn't known for his power, was able to land so many punches on Ortiz only deepens worries about how he would lare against Crawford, who is far more skilled and powerful. Crawford's precision and power could spell trouble for Ortiz, who already showed weakness against a lesser opponent. Bozy emphasized that Ortiz needs to change his method if he wants to succeed at the highest level. What Virgil really needs to do is stop trying to knock everybody out. Bozy said when he first came out there, Bohachuk hit him with a good shot, and he just goes off. It looked like to me instead of keeping using that jab like Robert was telling him, use your jab.
What do you need to see from Virgil to say that he's ready for a Terrence Crawford or he's ready for like an Earl Spence, somebody on that level?
Well, what Virgil really needs to do is stop trying to knock everybody out. That's what he does when he first come out.
This advice is crucial, especially against a fighter like Crawford, who will punish any mistake Ortiz makes in the ring. Crawford's intelligence and adaptability make him a dangerous opponent, and Ortiz's current style plays right into his hands. Robert Garcia, Ortiz's teacher, has been trying to get him to use his jab more and avoid hitting every time he gets hit.
When you hit him with a good shot, he just goes off, look like to me. You know what I mean? Instead of staying, you keep using that jab. Like Robert was telling you, use the jab.
However, Ortiz's natural aggression and tendency to get angry when hit have been hard to stop. Bozy watched. Then he got away from it for a while. He's got to be smart. You mess with Crawford, you really got to be on the ball. Crawford is a good counter-puncher. Imagine if that were Crawford. And the way Crawford counter-punches, he can't be going to Crawford like that. Ortiz's insistence on looking for the knockout could be his undoing. As Bozy said, Virgil is missing a lot of shots in his tries to land the big punch, and those misses could take a toll on him.
Got away from that for a while, you know what I mean? He got to be smart. You mess with Crawford, you really got to be on the ball, man. Crawford is good counter-punchers too, so imagine if that was Crawford. And the way Crawford counterpunch. It can't be going to Crawford like that.
Ortiz's, you could see that he was sitting down on those shots, but he was missing a lot of shots too. Though that could have taken effect on him too. He was missing a lot of shots. Bozy said against Crawford, who is known for his counter-punching and ability to capitalize on mistakes. Missing shots could lead to devastating results for Ortiz.
Those punches, if you're a good fighter, you're going to see all his punches. He loads up on every shot. He tries his hardest to knock you out, which is cool, and he has a good heart. But at a certain level, that's not going to work. That's why I beat him every time.
The situation surrounding this possible fight is complex. Ortiz's desire to face Crawford is reasonable. It's a huge opportunity both in terms of prestige and financial reward, but the risks are equally important, as Bozy and Bernard's analysis shows.
This is more of a rock'em sock'em style of boxing, okay? It's very entertaining, but once you get to the highest level and you have to have versatility, there's no adjustments. There's subtle adjustments.
The team behind Ortiz likely sees the same risks and understands that he's still a work in progress. They may be hesitant to push him into such a challenging fight before he's fully ready, however. As Bernard Hopkins hinted, money often has a way of making things happen in boxing even when the risks are apparent in the end. Though it may not matter what Bernard or Robert Garcia or even other trainers think, the prospect of a big payday and the chance to fight someone like Croc could be enough to push the fight through. If it happens, Ortiz will have to prove that he's ready for the challenge but based on his recent performance, Bozy concerns appear justified. So while Turki might want the fight and Ortiz might want it, to the team behind Ortiz is clearly against it. But just like Bernard said, it seems like money will end up making the fight happen. Even if Bernard and Ortiz's trainers see the facts, we could understand why Bernard doesn't want to see all this happening and why he is stepping out now. Whether he is making, suggesting, or rejecting fight, Saudi Arabia's Turki Alalshikh is currently the straw that is stirring boxing's drink, which was never more clear than just recently as Oscar de la Hoya addressed two of the sport's more high-profile fights. Oscar de la Hoya, who has been deeply involved in talks with Turki Alalshikh, has become the central figure in planning some of the most anticipated matchups in boxing today. The spotlight is shining brightly on de la Hoya as he maneuvers through negotiations and strategic planning, often with a keen eye on the enormous financial opportunities that Saudi Arabia presents. Unlike Bernard Hopkins, who has seemingly distanced himself from the decisions driven by financial incentives, de la Hoya is fully involved in the process, knowing that the purse strings controlled by Turki can make or break big fights. One of the key discussions currently involving de la Hoya and Turki revolves around the possible lightweight title fight between WBC title holder Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda. De la Hoya's enthusiasm for this matchup is obvious. He's well aware that such a fight under Turkish financial backing could be monumental for both the fighters and the promotion. It's interesting. I would love to make that fight. De la Hoya said during a recent interview that his willingness to bring the fight to one of the Turki cards shows that we might be expecting the future fights to be mostly based on the financial side rather than for the good of the sport. We're going to look at those choices. If Turki wants to put that on one of his cards and wants to make it a big event, I would be stupid not to do it. It's a fight people want to see. From his words, we clearly see that it's Turki who has the say here, but we might as well come to give in the thought of it that a draw of Saudi money is too great to ignore. Fighters are now more inclined to consider bouts that promise significant paydays even if the challenges they present are difficult.
Zepeda, and I'm telling you right now, this is exclusive. William Zepeda will fight Shakur Stevenson. He will fight Shakur. I will make that fight next.
This is exactly. De la Hoya is keen on sitting down with William Zepeda to discuss the Stevenson fight. I'll sit down with William Zepeda, and he already told me I'll fight anybody. You tell me to fight Oscar. If that's the road we're going to take, so be it. The talk surrounding Saul Canelo Alvarez's chose to fight unbeaten, a tested Edgar Berlanga rather than unbeaten former super middleweight champion David Benavidez is another hot topic. De la Hoya has been vocal about his disappointment in Alvarez's choice, especially given the lucrative offers on the table from Turki to fight Benavidez. Take a look at Canelo, for instance. Canelo has surprised himself even with Turki. De la Hoya told Boxing Scene his frustration with Alvarez's reluctance to face Benavidez is obvious, and he doesn't hold back in expressing his disbelief. That's how afraid Alvarez is of Benavidez. It's incredible. I've never seen it in my life for De la Hoya. This situation is emblematic of a larger issue in boxing: fighters pricing themselves out of important bouts, not because of the money itself, but because they fear the competition. When I was coming up in fighting, you outprice yourself when you don't want to fight. That's the bottom line. It's a shame that Canelo is not wanting to fight the very best. De la Hoya added that the consequences of these negotiations are profound. De la Hoya's willingness to engage with Turki Alalshikh and leverage the financial power of Saudi Arabia points to a broader trend in the sport, where money increasingly dictates the fights that get made. While Hopkins appears to have stepped away from the financial aspects of the sport, De la Hoya is embracing them, fully aware that they are now a critical part of the equation in the talk around Isaac Pitbull. Cruz also proves this point. Cruz, who recently lost his title to Jose Valenzuela, is now at a crossroads in his career. De la Hoya, always looking for the next big chance, is likely weighing the options for Cruz's future, considering how to best position him in the market. The possibility for a rematch with Valenzuela is there, but as analysts like Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri have pointed out, it might not be the best move for Cruz given the style matchup issues he faces. For De la Hoya, may eventually come down to what makes the most financial sense. As Malignaggi mentioned, I'd like to see a rematch, but I'm not sure coaches can turn the tables. Algieri echoed this opinion, saying, I don't know that it's going to be any different. Valeria may be getting better. These analyses highlight the complexities of making the right choice for Cruz's career, one that balances both competitive and financial considerations. As the boxing world watches these events happen, one thing is clear here. Oscar de la Hoya is deeply rooted in the process, working closely with Turki Alalshikh to shape the future of the sport. Bernard Hopkins, on the other hand, seems to have taken a step back, perhaps realizing that in today's boxing environment, it's money, not just skill or reputation, that drives the big decisions. Well, what's your take? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. See you in the next one.